Okay, so next we're going to talk about the schematic tab. Schematic is a way of associating pictures with a part without it being operational specific. So if I want to, and these all print out at the end, which might be useful for just overall part pictures, like how the part works. It might be a schematic that is sent to you by your customer. It might be useful just to track. In addition to schematic, we also have documents. Documents allows you, and again, we went over this in the customer module, but documents allows you to attach non-picture as well as picture files. And these can print optionally, but they don't have to, and by default they won't. So again, if you have your customer's request for a quote, the schematic, pictures, things that you don't want to print, but you want to track, you can add them here. Next is the special requirement, and you could actually see that the special requirement was also visible. No, all right, that's the specs. So special requirement is just a place to add additional information. Notes to customer prints exclusively on the quote. So if you want to have a note that you just send out on the quote, you can add that. And again, these all support rich text. So for example, this is large and italic. If you want to change color, or do you want to have a better looking font, you can do that. Technical notes is internal, and it primarily prints out on the job order. It can optionally print out on other documents if you want to, but generally it's intended for internal purposes. It's just an area to add some more notes. What we find is that maybe in the process you have very general information about the finish, and then in the technical notes you might have some more information that's specific to the part. Sales notes is also intended to be internal. It's just an area to add, like maybe make notes about pricing adjustments. I changed this price. I added a min-lot charge. Customer complained, so I gave them a discount. That sort of thing. Certificate of compliance. That's used if a customer requires you to have a cert. You can check off print cert, and this depends on whether or not you want to print certs for all customers or not. If you want to print certs out all the time, you don't have to check this. The system will just assume that they're all going to print. But if you have certs for some customers or some parts, not all, you'd go in here and you check it. Checking that is enough to get the cert to print out, but if you need to print out additional information, maybe measurements about the part thickness when you ran the job, you can have cert templates and select them. Now, you can make changes to this, which will create a new template, which can then be used for this part or other parts. And you can also look up the templates directly under shipping, and then look up cert master file. So you can see that's a quick list of our templates. Okay, so we'll leave that checked. Price history, and in this case this is a new quote, so there's no price history, but this is a quick way of looking at what was actually billed to your customer. So you can see that it's different than the change history, because the change history shows who changed the price, but it doesn't really tell you what was actually billed. So here you can see prices that actually went out to the customer.
Now I see that you have the precious metal prices. Can you talk a little bit more about that feature?
Sure. So sometimes if you have a part that involves precious metal like gold, silver, nickel as part of your process, the price fluctuates a lot day to day. So maybe when you initially quote the price, let's say that gold has a existing price of I don't know what gold goes for. Let's say $11 an ounce. Is that no? Like 110?
How about try $1,100?
Okay. Sorry. 1,100.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the price of gold as of the day that you do the quote. Then you specify how much of that price makes up the part price. So let's say that's a very small percentage, 10% of the part price is made up of that gold price, or even smaller, however much you want to have it be. Markup is then how much you're charging above the base price, and this you can leave it 0, in which case your factor is just based completely off the base price, or you can say, we have an upcharge of 20%. What this does is if you specify this precious metal pricing information, when you go to invoice a job for this part, the system will ask you what the daily price is for gold. And if it's changed since the quote, then it'll make an adjustment factor for you. So let's say that the price goes up, $100, $200. Then using the markup and the factor, it'll create an adjusting price increase, which will print right on the invoice. Conversely, if the price goes down, it'll also lower the price for the customer. So it depends on if you want to track daily precious metal prices that way. And again, it can work for anything that's precious. I mean, it doesn't have to be a metal per se, but that is how it works.
Great. I can see that being very useful for somebody who's doing precious metal in their shop in the process. Thank you.
Okay, and we do have some other notes fields that I just want to touch on. Rack method as just racking instructions if you don't want to include those in the process. We have part notes, which similar to customer notes is just a place to keep a history of changes to this part. We have settings, and this is a way to show a quick message to users of the system. Like maybe when they go to print a job order, you can say, please make sure that this part specification has been filled out, or shipping instructions. If you can say, this customer requires that this part be packaged a specific way, please double check. We've had problems with this in the past. That sort of thing. Ship to is the ship to for this part. Similar to in the customer, if a particular part always goes to an alternate shipping address, you can specify that here. And then alternate rack and barrel. If you have a part that runs through a particular rack or barrel line, that's specified under the main tab, rack code, barrel code. But if you have alternate lines that you can use, you can specify them here so that if the primary line is busy, you can move it to an appropriate line. Okay.